Okay guys, thanks so much for joining us. So today we're going to address a little question that's been popping up on the channel over the last few months. You know, certain topics and you know, concerns that people have when they're trying to match their irons and their wedges is how to deal with the gap wedge. Do you address the gap wedge and make it part of your iron set, or do you go towards one of the specialist wedges like a Vokey or a Ping or, you know, Cleveland or you know, one of the specialist types?
And that being because the way the modern irons are a little bit stronger in loft, most people are ordering 5 to gap wedge where they used to order 3 to pitch or 4 to pitch.
Something like that. That's exactly it. So they're covering the same distance and they're just doing it in a slightly different way.
Right. So this is almost like, the A wedge is almost like the new pitching wedge. If you remove, whatever, 15 years worth of club development.
Pretty much one. So yeah, it would have been the pitching wedge. We're doing 50 degrees not all that long ago, maybe 25 years ago or something like that. You know, something. So it's incrementally. I remember when I first started playing, it was about 48 degrees. Wow. Cleveland had I used to play out of Cleveland and 588, 48 degree, and then became 46, 45. Right. Now we're seeing some of the companies with oversized heads are 43.
Is that as strong as you're getting?
It can be as low as that at times, which is just too much.
Yeah. I mean, I think the extreme end is probably not much. You don't fit into the extreme end of that very often versus maybe the mid to strong end. But
I can really say that I don't think we've sold any irons with the loft being that strong in here.
So you've either weakened them a bit or it's just been a different model.
Yeah, maybe you've got the kind of 2 degrees either side of standard is kind of where we've kind of recommended most of the time. So we thought this one would be a really interesting little video, just a quick test and hit some balls, see. Test a cavity back set gap wedge. So this is the Callaway Apex Pro approach wedge. Pop Matt's Nippon Modus 120 in there. And then obviously compare that to your Vokey.
Yeah. So this is kind of your transitional wedge now, as we're saying. So the point when maybe some people don't necessarily swing full with a 56 and a 60 that often. This is probably your last full swing club on a consistent basis.
I would say so.
So people are probably going to be wondering, do I just order to the pitching wedge or do I get a Vokey? Why would I bother getting a Vokey? I think that's the question we get all the time.
Definitely.
And so that's the reason we're doing the test, is just to see, is there actually a performance difference or would you might as well just get kind of either or?
Yeah, exactly. And I think this will really touch on the thought of a lot of people out there and help a lot of kind of golfers make the decision as to what to do. So roughly, you know, when I get to the wedges with a player and we've done their iron fit and we're into wedges, the question comes up for me, what do you do with the gap wedge? Is it a full shot club? Do you chip with it? Does it have to have versatility? Does it have to have multifunction?
Does it need to be forgiving, I guess, is the question too?
That's really the question you're asking is, how many full shots? Is it only full shots? And if it is, you're going to hit a few. You're probably, you know, for most handicap golfers, you're probably best going with a set gap wedge. Yeah,
because you'll potentially save a yard or two on fall off if you toe it or something like that, and that's worth doing.
Well, that iron in particular, the Apex Pro, I mean, you know, for its kind of fairly small head and nice kind of lines on the profile. It has a fairly small head.
It's very. I don't think when I was addressing it, it didn't really look any bigger than the Vokey. Just a bit, maybe in the top line, but barely.
And for the size of a head that it has, it was very quick. So we used to have good success with the Apex Pro. The ball speed would be excellent. The feel would be really nice. It's forged. So it ticks a lot of boxes as to maybe why it would be quite a good wedge. But the question for some people would be, does it go too far? Does it, does the ball speed sort of retention, does it make the Apex Pro go a little further than you would like versus a blade wedge, where obviously if you hit it toe heel, kind of high low, anywhere off centre, you might lose a bit more on that design versus something with sort of perimeter weighting.
So important to say, if someone's going to go out and test, they have to do what we did and match the loft.
Yeah, we made them both exactly what you play, which is 50 degrees.
In the same line, go 2 degrees flat. So you need to compare the same loft and line to make sure the ball's going to fly the same. Aside from the fact that it's a cavity back different. Is it a forged face or is it a cast face material?
It's forged body.
So the full forged body.
Full forged body.
Okay. But based on the design of it, we would expect maybe to see a little more speed. I think that was my expectation. Anyway.
Definitely, and that's what I thought we would see as well. And a couple of design things, sort of. No milling on the face, so we might see a little less spin on the apex versus the kind of milling on across the face of the Vokey, just to encourage a little more spin.
Yep, gotcha.
Okay.
So let's see what we got.
So we ran through a bunch of shots, and what we kind of shook out with was a 1.5 mile an hour ball speed increase with Apex Pro. Something, but not not too much. We saw the Apex Pro launch a little higher and spin a little less, pretty much as we thought.
Yeah, I think it's what we thought, but maybe just to a more subtle degree than.
I think so. I think it's closer than I thought it was going to be, and especially with the net result of it being a sort of 2-yard differential.
Not much.
It's not really.
You know what I think probably happens when people wonder between the two and test the two? I think that a lot of the time they'll go to the store. I know this is not the best example because it's a more traditional set, but that gap wedge, for example, might be 50, and someone thinks it's 52 because a lot of gap wedges are 52. So they'll test this at 50 and this at 52. Oh, this goes 8 yards further. This is the one to get, or vice versa. It's not the one to get. So getting the lofts the same, I think it's kind of like when we did our blade versus cavity video. Once we put the lofts the same, yes, there was a bit of ball flight difference, not a lot.
Not much.
Just some.
And guys, you have to be sort of, a little bit honest in this scenario and assess your ball striking capabilities. And we're obviously dealing with, Matt's ball striking, which is excellent, and we're not really dealing with too much of a miss and having to manage that. So a blade versus a cavity, probably less likely to see that much of a drop off anyway. But ball striking isn't your strength, and maybe you come across it slightly and kind of you're a little inconsistent with the strike, guys. It's probably going into some kind of bigger cavity is really going to be beneficial at that point.
I mean, you take your couple hundred shots over the course of a season and create an average out of that. I think in that case you probably see a distance difference with these because you get away with a miss a bit more with this one.
Definitely, and it's a real premium on the short irons because realistically, if your handicap is sort of mid to high, especially on the higher end, you're not expected to hit a green with a 5-iron, really. That's why you've got a handicap.
True enough, yeah.
But you're always expected to hit a green with a gap wedge, and not only that, if you can hit it within 20 feet, give yourself a scoring opportunity. Then it becomes a real asset. So weighing up the characteristics of what of the wedge versus what you need is the most important bit here.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. The only advantage I'm thinking then, aside from the forgiveness, is that you might want to go with this if you want to choose your bounce degree, because you obviously can't really customize the bounce on
there's
a set
only
wedge.
One of those.
Yeah, and there's how many different Vokey gap wedges?
Yeah. So in the F grind, you've got the 8-degree bounce, the 12-degree bounce.
Right.
So if you're kind of a little bit shallow or not much of a divot taker, you'll find better turf interaction with the 8. If you do tend to dig a little bit or play in really soft conditions, the 12 is going to be a little bit better for you.
Right. So you've got, and even if you had to say it was a 52, then there's a bunch more options in that.
Same thing.
So I guess it's more, do you really want to get custom with the sole design and stuff like that? Versus do you just kind of want something that kind of performs like your pitching wedge and is a little bit forgiving and is like your irons?
Yep, that's exactly it. And I've always looked at it like, what's the versatility required? Is it chipping, even long bunker shots? I know some people like to play long bunker shots with gap wedges. Is it full shots? Is it all of the above? And if it is, you probably need the versatility of the blade style with the way the sole is designed and the milling in the face. And if it's just a full shot and literally just its only job is to be 10 to 12 yards less than your pitching wedge, well, just go with the same club as your irons.
So you're saying this will spin a bit more in the bunker, be a bit easier to get through the sand, I guess.
Yeah.
Is this, assuming the bounces were similar, it's more the sole design, the relief maybe in the toe and heel that are a bit different?
It is a little different, isn't it? I mean, there's more sole mass to the Titleist. We kind of discussed the kind of design of the narrowing of the sole into the heel of the Apex Pro really narrows down into there, whereas the Vokey's a little bit wider, a little bit more kind of sort of boxy, if you like, all the way down. So there's different design characteristics. It's well worth trying them.
And getting a fit.
Go get fit. That's always the key.
I think people are going to focus too much, as I did, on this will just go further, and that's why I'm choosing one of the two. But it sounds like that's one of probably 6 different factors to consider when flipping between these two. You're
always juggling a bunch of different factors. That's exactly it. Scenarios and different lies and preferences and shot types and you know, whatever, you know, you can take from the numbers. Perhaps you're using a golf ball that brings out much more spin in it, so you know the Apex Pro is better because it controls the spin. If you're a high speed player and you're playing Chrome Soft, you haven't been watching our videos to know how much that spins. You know, you might benefit from having a little less spin and ripping balls off the green. Who knows? I mean, there's all sorts of scenarios, but I think good for us to point out the differences between the two. There are differences, they're subtle, but to different players, it might be a little more prominent.
Great. I think that's a good little summary.
Yeah, I think it's important, guys. Cool. Well, let us know, you know, what you guys think, and if this has been a dilemma for you. We kind of want to know. Maybe tell us a little bit about your iron set. A lot of iron sets nowadays are trying to be progressive. So as you kind of go from the long irons into the mid into the shorts, they actually change, you know, more offset in the long irons, wider sole, and then in the top line, and that kind of progresses into being a little bit more of a sort of slightly smaller head, less offset on the short irons, just so you don't feel like you're going to be too clumsy with those delicate shots around the green. So, you know, some people might be using a set of irons like that gives you the best of both worlds.
It's true. The Strixons that you showed me had a gap wedge that basically looked like a Vokey. They had transitioned it right into it, didn't it?
785s, yep.
So that's, I mean, if your irons are like that, then maybe this isn't really a conversation. But if you are playing a big cavity iron, no doubt there's a big difference.
There is for sure.
All right.
Excellent. Okay, guys, you know, hopefully this has been helpful. Let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know if this is something you've been struggling with, and we'll be sure to get back to your questions.
100%.
Thanks so much. We'll see you again soon.